Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the healthiest of them all? Would your mirror lie to you? We're going to find out in today's podcast of Eat Plants, Feel Whole, a program that's designed to help you harness the healing power of plants and transform your health. I'm your host, Todd Chobatar. I serve as publisher and editor-in-chief of Advent Health Press. Today, we're talking to lifestyle medicine specialist, Dr. George Guthrie, about his book, Eat Plants, Feel Whole. Welcome, Dr. Guthrie.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Todd.
Now, Dr. Guthrie, today, we're looking at this topic of, could my mirror lie to me? You've had some interesting experiences in your life when it comes to the mirror, looking in the mirror, that even dates back to early childhood.
That's
Take us into that.
When I was young, I was always the short, fat kid in school.
Really?
This was not always comfortable. I wanted to be taller. I wanted to be thin and faster like the rest of the kids. An episode that stands out in my mind was visiting the swimming pool with my parents and siblings. And I remember going to the pool, and at the swimming pool, there was something I could do better than any of the other kids.
Oh.
And that was something that we identified as the Cannonball. If you've got kids,
Cannonball.
You probably just know something about it.
It's a childhood classic.
I could make a bigger splash than anybody else. And of course, that made me feel good.
Sure.
So
yeah.
I would jump off the diving board, make this big splash, and then run around, get to the ladder, back up around to do it again, because it made me feel good about myself.
Good.
And of course,
right.
I'd bounce up out of the water and say, "Did you see that? How far did it go?"
Yeah.
And I was excited about it. So I was wearing out on this. Many of my friends had already quit, and it was just me left kind of doing this myself. I got to the ladder, getting ready to go around again, and there was a kid there that I didn't know. And, using my elbow, I actually got up the ladder first.
Pushed him out of the way a little.
Pushed him out of the way, water dripping out from behind. And as I went up, he said, "Fat lump." Now, I had never heard this before. I had never been called a fat lump, but this was brand new to me. And it immediately brought tears to my young eyes.
Sure.
Well, when you're hurt, where do you go?
Yeah, you go to mom.
Well, our mom or dad. So
Yeah.
I found Dad, and I said, "Dad, he called me a fat lump." And my father said, "I never heard that before." That didn't help.
It didn't help. Thanks,
So
Dad.
I've had a hard time with this word fat ever since then, and I prefer to use a different word. Okay,
All right.
fluffy.
Fluffy.
I mean, it's more like grandma,
Oh,
right?
it is, it
I mean, you
is.
can sit in grandma's lap, and the fluff, that's comforting. Okay?
It's comforting.
And
I would
it's
go with that, yeah.
much better than fat.
I like fluffy, yes.
Now, since I've gotten a little older and made some lifestyle changes, my weight is much better than it certainly would have been if I'd have continued on that same journey.
Okay.
And as a lifestyle medicine specialist, someone who helps other people change their lifestyles, make them more healthy, I often have the opportunity to share with people about weight loss. Now, you've brought up in your introduction about the mirror.
Absolutely.
Would it lie to you? And the truth is that it absolutely can.
Now, how?
I use a story to kind of explain this. So consider two friends, Abe and Bill. They're both about the same height. They're both about the same weight.
Okay.
Okay? Put them on the scale. That's what they look like.
Abe and
They're
Bill,
about
all right.
50% muscle and 50% fluff.
Fluff.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
So Abe and Bill decide they're going to lose weight. Abe does this every year. That grapefruit diet works good for him. He buys a case of grapefruit, Florida grapefruit, that'll do it.
So maybe as a New Year's resolution, or
New
maybe
Year's
coming up to
resolution.
the summer, he wants to drop a few pounds.
Whatever it may
all
be,
right.
it's the grapefruit diet, and it works.
Grapefruit diet, all right.
And so he eats nothing but grapefruit for a month.
Okay.
And sure enough, his weight drops. He's down 15, 18 pounds and really feeling good about himself. It works every time. Now, Bill, on the other hand, was looking through his local bookstore and ran across a book called Eat Plants, Feel Whole.
I like that option.
And he decided he would try this. So, yes, he kind of added some exercise, and he began to choose foods that were not calorically dense. Whole plants.
Whole plant
not
foods, yeah.
refined. So kind of in the package in which God created them. And as he ate those, there were fewer calories, and his weight began to come down. It was a slow sort of a thing. I mean, at the end of a month, he may be down 5, maybe 7, down a little bit.
Yeah, a little
and he's
bit.
happy about that.
Yeah.
He's feeling healthy. So Abe and Bill are downtown, who knowsville, and they meet each other in front of the barber shop. And Abe says, "Hey, Bill, you're looking good. What you been doing? Losing some weight?" "Oh, yeah. How much have you lost?" "Well, I've lost like 7 pounds." "Well, that's great. What did you do?" "Well, I ate I got this book, Eat Plants, Feel Whole, and I followed it, and it worked. But Abe, you've also lost some weight. How much have you lost?" "Oh," he says, "I'm down 20 pounds. It's that grapefruit diet. It works every time." And Bill is saying to himself, "I wonder if I did the wrong thing."
The wrong thing.
Maybe the grapefruit diet would have been better. I argue that we need to know more than what the scales say, because the scales can lie to us. When we go on a crash diet, as Abe did, we lose about 50% fat and 50% fluff.
Oh, okay.
So at the end of the month, when Abe is finished, his muscle mass has also dropped. So if he goes back to eating the same way he was eating before, the same number of calories, it'll go right back up. And so often we see this happening with people. They have the crash diet followed by the weight gain, and it often goes even higher.
Kind of this yo-yo diet that you hear about from time to time.
That's right. I like to call it the rhythm method of girth control. And it doesn't work either.
And it doesn't work either?
On the other hand, the best way of doing this is the way Bill has done it, is the long, slow way. Because he hasn't put his body into an emergency mode. He's slowly burning calories, not muscle calories, but the fat calories, the fluff calories. And as those leave, he's losing the stuff he really needs to get rid of. And inside his body, he's getting healthier. You see, he's chosen a lifestyle change rather than a crash diet. And a lifestyle change does best with long, slow weight loss.
And that, I'm hearing you saying, is better because it's more permanent?
Well, yes, it's more permanent, and it's less negative on the body. It's less stressful.
I see.
You're much less likely to burn up that muscle. And
because I want to keep the muscle. I want to lose the fluff, but I want to keep the muscle.
And a diet is something that has an end. A lifestyle is something that you embrace for health in the long run. It's actually much better to lose that weight at maybe maximum about 1 or 2 pounds a week. If you get below that, you start to have trouble.
Now, I heard you use that word diet. It seems like I've heard the word diet uses like an acronym for something before.
Dare I eat that?
Dare I eat that?
That's what they all say when they're doing it. Okay.
And the downside of that is that it keeps me in a mode of, this is a short-term thing. I'm going to jump into this. I'm going to drop a bunch of weight real quick. And then in my mind, everything's going to be good. But yet...
We in the Western world really like things fast. I want it now. And we want this kind of crash fast diet. It makes us feel good. And indeed, there are some health benefits from it. But in the long run, when you gain that weight back, while some of the benefits last for time, overall, there seems to be a negative effect.
And that's why my scales or the mirror really can lie to me, because it looks like I'm losing weight, which I am, but it's not really the best solution.
It's not the picture of what's inside.
Yeah.
And remember, Bill was losing at the end of the the month. Bill had lost all fat and no muscle, which means he continues to have a continued. He tolerates. He loses weight better.
Loses weight better, yeah.
Because, I mean, he's not going back the way he was eating. We don't want him to go back. But if he did, the weight wouldn't bounce back on because he still has that muscle mass. Each pound of muscle burns between 35 and 50 calories per day, just sitting there, not exercising. Each pound of fat burns between 2 and 3 calories per day, just sitting there.
Just sitting there. So I really want to hang on to the muscle.
You really want to hang on to the muscle, absolutely.
Now, you know, when you talk about this, Dr. Guthrie, it makes me think a little bit about that old children's story that I read to my kids when they were growing up called The Tortoise and the Hare.
Yes.
And the tortoise was all about getting there quick, but then the hare was. I got that backwards. Got that so the hare was quick, quick, but the tortoise slow and steady.
Slow and steady is best.
And that's what we want to think of when we're looking at planning. Okay.
I like this picture, and I'd like to make this point, if I may. Okay? If one loses a pound a week for a year, taking 1 week off for Christmas and your birthday, okay?
Seems fair.
That's 50 pounds a year, right? So if you weigh 250 pounds, first year, you're down to 200. The next year, you're down to 150. The next year, you're down to 100. The next year, you're down to 50. And the next year...
Somewhere in that process, it seems like I'd want to stop.
The physiology does that. The closer you get to your ideal body weight, the harder the weight tends to come off. Your body tends to stabilize that off. It's much harder for someone who's at their ideal body weight to lose 20 pounds than for somebody who's 150 pounds overweight. So that's just another principle that may be helpful for those who are along the way. Certainly, a calorie is not a calorie completely. It's really the physiology that it goes into. So, well,
that's an interesting concept. A calorie, you can look at it differently of calories. Because one of the things I remember that I've heard you talk about is this concept of caloric density and how there are, a calorie may not be a calorie in the same kind of way. So in one kind of food, it might be different than if you get that calorie from a different kind of food. Tell me a little bit about that and why that matters if I'm trying to lose weight.
Calories are not handled the same all the time.
Okay.
For example, a fat calorie, unless one is actively exercising at the time, is much more likely to be put into storage than to be burned, whereas our body prefers to use carbohydrate calories to burn. That's the fuel of choice. Now, fat calories are generally stored and we need them in reserve. If we eat a lot of fat calories, we eat over the number of calories we need for the day, the fat calories will be stored. The carbohydrates will be burned. It's just the way the physiology is designed and kind of prefers to run.
So is there a difference, for example, between if I have, let's say, a cookie that's 50 calories versus eating a bowl of cantaloupe that has 50 calories in it? I mean, is there a difference between those calories? They're both calories, right?
Yes, they're going to be, they're about the same. Another piece that you brought up with this cantaloupe versus cookie, and one kind of fat-free fig Newton has about the same number of calories as a small cantaloupe.
Okay.
When you get finished with that same number of calories, the cantaloupe is going to have filled you up, and you're going to say, I'm not, and it'll take you a little longer to eat, too. Right?
Oh, you sure?
So the hormones start to go in the brain, and you're saying, well, my stomach's getting full. Maybe I'm not hungry anymore. So you're much more likely to stop eating the cantaloupe when you get done with it. The cookie, it'll be like, I bet you can't eat one because you're going to need a second one. So there's a way in which these calories drive our eating. And when they're concentrated that way, they tend to encourage us to take more calories in.
So it's part of what's in the more natural food, like, for example, the cantaloupe, that fills me up more.
When we choose foods that are high in fiber and water, which in essence have no calories, they are much less likely to end up on us as extra weight.
Any other examples like that?
Well, we've got several of them here that I've written down. Two kind of cubes of cheddar cheese equivalent to about 30 dried apricot halves.
Whoa.
So we're talking about, like an inch square sort of a
Sure,
a
I've seen
cheese.
those little cheese
so
cubes.
you can imagine those cheese cubes go in pretty quickly, and it's hard to stop at just 2.
Yeah.
Whereas 30 dried apricots, you get halfway through and you said, maybe I've had enough of those.
Yeah.
Right? Another one is you get the 8.5 ounces of gummy bears, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm familiar with those gummy bears.
Equivalent to about a cup of cantaloupe. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So I said that wrong. It's a cup of pineapple.
Cup of pineapple.
Cup
Okay.
of pineapple.
All right. Sure.
So, and then a cup of cashews, equivalent to about 8 baked potatoes with salsa. Now that's pretty amazing, right?
Say that last one again.
A cup of cashews.
Cup of cashews.
Now that's a whole plant food, right?
Yeah,
That's had the shell taken off. But that has about the same number of calories as 8 baked potatoes with salsa on top of them. And I'll bet you'd never make it through those 8 potatoes.
I could not make it through 8
But that
baked
cup
potatoes.
of cashews you'll do over a football game.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And maybe go for a second cup.
And maybe go for a second cup, yeah. So there's this kind of concentration of calories that can make a difference in how much we actually eat. Now, there's another dimension of this that we should probably spend more time at later, and that is when you eat may make a difference, too.
Okay.
If you eat a bunch of calories and just lay down and sleep at night, we know now from the science that those calories are more likely to be kept. Whereas if you eat those same calories in the morning and burn them off during the day, go to bed with an empty stomach, those calories are much more likely to be burned off. More likely to lose weight when you eat your calories in the morning rather than the evening. But more on that at a different time.
More than another time. But that does make sense because if I'm up and being active throughout the day, but I'm not being active when I go to sleep at night, sure, it makes sense. I'd burn calories more during the day.
That is absolutely correct.
I want to eat more of those in the morning. Okay, all right, that makes sense. Well, so Dr. Guthrie, for the action item for this podcast today, if you wanted to give people just one thing to take away from our time here, what would it be?
Long, slow, gradual weight loss is better than the crash dieting.
Okay.
That when you lose weight fast, you're likely to be causing trouble. And there's an end to it. So go for a long-term lifestyle change.
That just takes that weight off bit by bit at a time.
Bit by bit. That's the safest way. Don't let the scales lie to you. Don't even let your mirror lie to you, okay? Because even you look in the mirror and you say, that's still larger than I would like it.
Yeah.
The benefits are happening internally. There's still health happening. And it happens much faster inside than it does outside.
From the appearance of it. Good to know. Good to know. Yes.
I worked in the times past at a lifestyle center where people paid lots of money to come in and get changed, their lifestyle. They wanted to get rid of their insulin. They wanted to fix their hypertension. They wanted to lose weight. One of the things we did in the gym was to remove all mirrors.
Really?
Because people that are overweight don't like mirrors. They don't like to look at themselves. And there's actually good rationale for that. If you look at yourself in the mirror, you're likely to get discouraged. You need to feel how you're doing better with your lifestyle change.
So when you talk to your patients about that, do you recommend that they kind of stay away from those sort of outward appearance things and just focus on?
Certainly the mirror. It's probably the most potent. The science does tell us that weighing yourself on a daily basis can help remind you if you're getting off track. But don't expect it to be always downward. It'll bounce around a little bit. That's okay.
That's okay, all right.
Just use that as a reminder to move in the right direction. Long, slow, gradual weight change is best.
That's the best way to do it. Okay, good. I like that a lot. Now, in your book, just as we're wrapping up here, you have a number of free resources that you offer to people.
Yes, on the website.
On the website, if people go to Eat Plants Feel Whole, and I'm grabbing a copy of your book in my hands right now, and I'm looking at this bonus page that you've got at the end of the book, and one of the resources that you offer is something called My New Recipe Rotation. This comes out of chapter 13 in the book, in which you talk about helping people to get into a new rotation of kind of frequent recipes. Tell me a little bit about that.
Most people, and if you'll stop and think about it for yourself, we have the same kind of meals in our family that we tend to do in a rotation. And generally there's 15, maybe 20 that are usually kind of repeated over and over again. I mean, it's easy to know the recipe. Everybody's going to like it. So you repeat those.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So one of the ways of managing a lifestyle change is to begin to change those one at a time. Oh. Turn it into a journey. Turn it into an expedition to find a new meal that's healthier to take place of one of the others. And as you find that, let it take its place. And you do that, one a month, and pretty soon that whole cycle is changed into a healthy cycle. So it's one of the kind of tricks or tools that one can use to move to a healthier lifestyle.
That makes sense to me, because when I think about my own family, and I've got 2 kids, there tends to be really just a handful of recipes or dishes or meals that when I'm a busy parent and my wife and I are, both working full time and we come home, we kind of default to. It's like, okay, well, we know this is a family favorite. We know the kids are going to eat this. And so there really are maybe, half a dozen or so, particularly in the evening meals that we kind of go back to over and over again. So you're saying this is one tool that can help me to just make some healthier choices and options.
Do it one at a time. Don't try to jump in all at once. That may be too much for the family. But to get there, get to your goal, do one at a time and make it fun. One at a time.
Good. And so folks can do that using my new recipe rotation, free resource that's available if you come to eatplantsfeelwhole.com, where you can download that resource. Dr. Guthrie, thank you so much for spending the time with us today.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Todd.
And you've been listening to the Eat Plants, Feel Whole podcast. This is a limited edition, 15-part series where our goal is to help you to harness the healing power of plants and to transform your health. I've been your host, Todd Chobatar. If you would like to find out more about Dr. Guthrie's work, you can go to eatplantsfeelwhole.com. And while you're on the web, I hope that you'll also come and discover some great resources for you that are available at adventhealthpress.com. And while you're there, don't forget to sign up for our free newsletter. It has healthy living tips, leadership wisdom, and we have lots of regular giveaways that we do as a part of that newsletter as well. So thank you for joining us today.